But I guess you can't now, being dead and all.
I'm dead?
Nah, I'm just messing with you.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Brazos Valley, UUCBV, or Brazos UU for short. My name is Carolyn Clark, and it's my privilege to be your worship assistant today. I come to this church because I find here a community that shares my values and calls me to live those values more deeply. We are a welcoming congregation, which means we celebrate and welcome all people of diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. We also strive to welcome people across diversities of race, age, ability, immigration status, and belief. So whoever you are, wherever you have come from, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We are also a reproductive justice congregation, which means that we support the reproductive decisions of all people. We encourage everyone to visit our website, brazos-uu.org. During this time of pandemic and in the midst of our planned building project, the website and our weekly services are our church home. If you might like to contribute your musical talents, if you have a great story to share your life's journey, or if you have a passion for social justice, we would love to hear from you. If you are interested in getting involved, you can find opportunities on our website. To learn more about our community and what is happening, you can join our email list and our monthly newsletter. And you can also find us on social media by searching UUCBV. This month is our summer movie collaborative. Our service today is based on the movie Bruce Almighty, which was shown last night as a community event through our regular Sunday services Zoom link on our webpage. Our service today is offered by Reverend Lara Campbell, who is the 26th called minister at First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church of Kennebunk, Maine.
Our chalice lighting today comes from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. It's titled Forged in the Fire of Our Coming Together. What's going on? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we'd thought, as if we were not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour together, we surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from needing to know, the yearning to have it already figured out, and also the burden of believing we each have all the control or none. Here in our song, in our silence, our stories, and our sharing, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, my friends. Courage to forge in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we still believe a new world is possible, that we are creating it already here and now. In this spirit, we light our chalice.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Now is our time for all ages. In a scene from the movie Bruce Almighty, the main character, Bruce, is a down-on-his-luck TV reporter who just got fired from his job and is driving his car while calling for God to give him a sign that will help him and that would answer him. For those of you who have not seen it or who need a refresher, this 2003 comedy stars Jim Carrey as Bruce and Morgan Freeman as God.
Okay, God. You want me to talk to you? Tell back. Tell me what's going on. What should I do? Give me a signal. I need your guidance, Lord. Please send me a sign. What's this joker doing now? Okay. All right. I'll try it your way. All right? Lord? I need a miracle. I'm desperate. I need your help, Lord. Please, reach into my life. What the? Got you! The gloves are off, pal! Come on, let me see a little rat. Smite me, almighty smiter! You're the one who should be fired! The only one around here not doing his job is you! Answer me! Sorry, don't know you. I wouldn't call you if I did.
While driving his car, Bruce asks for God to give him a signal, and he passes an electronic roadside construction message board saying, "Caution ahead." When Bruce asks for God again to send him a sign, a truck packed full of stop signs, wrong way signs, and other road signs pulls out in front of Bruce before he frustratedly races around to pass the truck. Bruce continues to ask God to reach into his life and help him, praying while clutching a prayer bracelet that his girlfriend gave him. In the middle of his prayer, he hits a pothole and drops the prayer bracelet. He reaches down onto the floorboard and grabs the bracelet, and as he sits back up, he realizes he has no time to react before crashing his car into a pole. Unharmed, Bruce frustratedly gets out of his crashed car and throws the prayer bracelet off of the bridge into the water below. Then, yelling towards the sky, "All right, the gloves are off now. Come on, let me see a little wrath. Smite me, O mighty smiter." After carrying on like this for a few more moments, Bruce gets paged by a number he doesn't recognize. His response is, "Sorry, don't know you, wouldn't call you if I did." Now I ask you to please think about a sign in your life that impacted you, a time when you may have been desperate or confused, a time when you needed guidance. Or maybe it is a time that you wanted confirmation to know you're on the right track. So tell me, how did you get the sign you needed? Did you recognize the signs in front of you right away? Or did it only occur to you in hindsight? What methods or resources did you use? Calling out in the night, prayer, meditation, tarot cards, palm readings, maybe a psychic, astrology, tea leaves, rune stones, or something else. Type your answers in the chat window and comment section so we can share them together during our discussion.
Our reading today is from Jake Morrill, a UU minister. It's entitled, Our Whole Life as a Series of Signs. He starts with a quote, "The greater the feeling of inferiority that has been experienced, the more powerful is the urge for conquest and the more violent the emotional agitation." That is from Alfred Adler, an early Austrian therapist. Jake says, I worked in a group home in Coralville, Iowa. It was for teens who could no longer live where they'd come from. From the outside, you'd hear screams. It was that kind of home. All the staff had short hair, otherwise a resident could grab it, smash your head against something. My favorite, Trey, used his own head on you. I learned this once when I had him in a hold. He ducked his head forward and then sent it back hard, and my teeth hurt for a week. I learned to look for disaster, Jake says, to steer away from situations that would set Trey off. We'd take to the sidewalks and sing country songs. Strawberry Wine was on the radio then. It was what we loved most. I knew the verses. He'd join in out loud, only on the word wine. To hell with the neighbors. I just thought glad that he wasn't inside breaking stuff. Can you blame him? His heart was ripped out. Fridays, he stood at the front window waiting on family that would never arrive, and then he'd erupt. Anyone would have even me. But Trey didn't have words. He spoke in flying lamps and end tables and flung puzzle boxes. It wasn't chaos, the wreckage. If you looked, it meant something. Later years, I fell for Alfred Adler, the Austrian therapist who broke it off from Freud. He said, all behavior is meaningful. It has context and purpose. Our whole life is a series of signs. Any slight action, a dim semaphore. Likewise, the psychiatrist James Gillian, having interviewed people in prison for doing violent harm, said their crimes were actually a form of communication, an attempt to mean something, to be heard, to be known. If someone studied the aftermath of our own life's disaster, maybe they'd pick out a pattern, some meaning in it. Through the crackle, the noise, maybe they'd detect a faint signal of our own falling heart. Our redemption, if it happens, will mean somebody tried.
When the ground drops out from under you and there's nothing there to hold on to, no, you're not the first to fall right through to a space of mystery, a place of questioning who you are and who you're meant to be. When you can't find home where it used to be, and your roots have faded into memory, no, you're not alone in this new reality. It's a well-trod path traveled by ancestors who came before and show the way. Throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, called to find the light within our broken hearts and let it shine. And we can't do it on our own, gotta find our family in the unknown. And side by side we'll go by stepping stone till the journey becomes our home. Some days it feels like searching for water in the sand. Sometimes it feels like falling with nowhere to land. Yeah, there are ups and downs that'll turn you round and round. We come back to the footprints, they're all around. And throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, cold to find the light within our broken hearts and let it shine. And we can't do it on our own, gotta find our family in the unknown. And side by side we'll go by stepping stone till the journey becomes our home. When the walls are closing in, we find our way out through the door into a light that's so much brighter than our hearts have known before. When we heed the call to follow the voice that burns within our core, we join the ranks of seekers, wanderers, and warriors of the soul. And throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, cold to find. Throughout time, we've been pushed into the dark, cold to find the light within our broken hearts and let it shine. And we can't do it on our own, gotta find our family in the unknown. And side by side we'll go by stepping stone till the journey becomes, yes, the journey becomes our home.
Early one Sunday morning, I was on I-95 South, headed to co-lead a worship service at the UU Church in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It was one of those cool fall mornings when the sun is shining through the thin early morning clouds. And as I drove down the turnpike, I saw a big flashing warning sign. You know, the kind that's put up to warn you of construction or to tell you not to text when you're driving. But this one stated something I had never seen before. It informed me, deceased animal in the roadway at mile 14. I began to mentally prepare for this, right? What kind of animal could it be? Maybe it was a deer or maybe even a moose. I was sad about the loss of the creature's life and also aware of the danger that it posed. I paid close attention as the mile markers went by. 18, 17, 16. At mile 15, my senses started to heighten. I started to scan the horizon back and forth for some kind of activity, anticipating a blocked lane with a crew moving an animal, but there was nothing ahead. I started to doubt myself. Had I read the sign right? Maybe I misread it. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe I needed to start drinking caffeinated coffee in the morning. And then at about mile 13.8, I saw it. And in an incredibly irreverent moment, I began to laugh. The deceased animal in the middle of Interstate 95, the one that I had anticipated, was a squirrel. Now, I do not mean to diminish the tragedy of the impact of vehicular traffic on the creatures in our environment. It was just that this was clearly not the animal that the sign had warned me about. I'm left to guess that maybe a larger animal had already been moved out of the roadway before I got there and they hadn't taken the sign down. But when I saw that sign, I made an assumption. And over the next 4 or so miles, I had constructed this entire story about what I was going to see. I was coaching myself on how I was going to deal with it. I was ready to slow myself down and possibly move over and maybe even feel some distress about the accident because I had seen the sign and I was ready to respond. So, no, I wasn't laughing at the squirrel in the road. I was laughing at myself. You know, signs can play an important role for people. We look for literal or symbolic indications or even hints to help us understand our lives, to give us direction, to give us hope in our darkest moments. We want to find some sort of explanation or give us some broader sense of understanding about what this life is all about. We long to know if we are on the right or the wrong path. We live by signs to let us know if we're heading in the positive direction, like a good grade in school or a promotion or a raise at work, or a friend who calls you up just out of the blue to say hi and lets you know that you matter. We look for signs when we're trying to make decisions about the next steps in our life. Maybe you've said it or heard it, someone else say it. It's a sign. It's a sign when something coincidental happens or a whole day goes really well or really bad. Sometimes we think it's a sign. And though it doesn't tell the whole story, a sign may be just that little nudge that we need, that reassurance that we crave. It can allow us to keep going or to check ourselves, to recalculate and head in a totally different direction. Now, in a sermon by W. Frank Allen, he talks about how we live by signs even more when we're in times of despair or difficulty. In times when life seems to be offering up defeat or victory, we look for signs that reveal what's really possible and what we're capable of as people and as a community. All of this has me wondering, what is this all about? What is it that causes us, that causes myself included, to look to things like some of the methods that were talked about earlier for reassurance? This desire to know is as old as we know. It's found in many ancient texts and stories. Frankly, a search found that there were 96 references to sign in the Bible and 101 occurrences in the Quran. Countless therapy sessions, millions of hours in study and prayer, oh, so many long walks, all focused on trying to satiate our need to know. And we, as Unitarian Universalists, are not immune to this search. We can find it, in fact, in our fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Or we can list some of those places that we look for our signs in our 6 sources, don't we? This desire to know, this search, can make us vulnerable. We've all heard of people who convince hundreds, even thousands, that they are a prophet of God because of the signs they're supposedly are able to perform or witnessed. Well-meaning people flock to them because they seem to seek that sign. Occasionally, humans step in to offer a sign. A few years ago, a well-known Minnesota, very conservative politician announced that they would consider running for the U.S. Senate, quote, if God gives me the sign. Well, the Lord above.com, also known as God on Facebook, provided an answer for this politician. The satirist raised over $7,000 and took out a billboard in the politician's home state. The sign read, Midwestern conservative politician name, capital N, capital O, period, signed God. Now, apparently, the particular politician did not respond to this sign. Sometimes people send us signs that are intended to be helpful. Other times, it's really about their own agenda. Sometimes we correctly interpret them, and sometimes we don't. And one of the dangers of looking so hard for a sign is that while we are searching for the sign, we might end up missing the actual truth that is right in front of us. Hearing a voice when we're alone or seeing something that nobody else can see is actually pretty common. Chania Marie Lerman, a professor at Stanford University in California, does anthropological and psychological research. And she reports that at least 1 in 10 people will say that they've had such an experience if you ask them bluntly. Science may not be able to tell us where these voices come from, but it can tell us that many of these events are normal, part of the fabric of human perception. And history tells us that those experiences enable people to choose paths that they should choose, but for various reasons, they had hesitated to make that choice. So how can we know? How can we make sure that what we are seeing and interpreting is the sign is actually correct? That we're not looking for the proverbial moose and finding a squirrel in the road. A Huffington Post blog by Stephanie Zamora, she talks about how our mind can interfere with our interpretations of our feelings when it comes to seeing and understanding the signs that we are given. The mind can easily argue, she says, sway and support each option or direction without problems. It's logical, it's rational, and can weigh the pros and cons like a champ, but it can't feel what's right for you. When you let your mind do the sign reading, suddenly you may be even more overwhelmed by the possibilities and the potential signs. Stephanie encourages us to engage in the age-old practice of meditation as a way to determine what our next steps should be. She believes that we are better to look for those signs that come from within rather than external cues. And she has a 4-step process that includes being clear on what you need guidance for, asking specific questions rather than a generalized request, releasing that request, sending it off, and that the truth will then be able to be heard. Engaging in the present, using your intuition that lives in your body. And if you want to know the answers and be able to receive them, you need to be engaged in it, not just engaged in your mind. And finally, stay open and receptive. If you have to think about whether or not it's a sign, it's probably not. If something is said or comes on your radar that sparks a physical reaction, a clear sense of truth, you have your answer. Listen to that. Now, these signs may be literal or symbolic or indications or just kind of little hints. They may come from your understanding of a higher spiritual being, from internal knowing self, or from intuition. This desire to understand has been around for as long as we have been able to document our existence. And what matters most is not if they are true or rational, if they happen or they don't. What matters is that they help us understand our lives, to give us direction and give us hope in our darkest moments. How we choose to use these signs is completely up to us. Blessed be and amen.
If we were having worship service in person, this is the time when we would pass the basket. This church shares the proceeds of the offering plate donation every week to support important nonprofit organizations with which we work. This month, we are proud to support the Confronting Our Racism group, which we will support from July through September. CORG is a coalition of community organizations working to increase our understanding of systemic racism and the ways it impacts individuals in our communities. Please be as generous as you can. If you wish to make an offering, you can mail your check, or for your convenience, you can donate online. On our homepage at brazos-uu.org, you can find our mailing address at the bottom, and you can see a Donate Here link. In the chat box, you will see that link now. May each of us look into our hearts. How much love, how much generosity, how much faith, how much gratitude, how much hope is there? We give thanks for these gifts we have given, for those we receive, and we give thanks for each other.
Throughout the ages, we humans have been flinging our arms up to the heavens and crying out, "Give me a sign." And what we know is that when we are reading the signs and paying attention, the answers can be found in the most simple, ordinary, and amazing things.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know we're there, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, 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 oh yeah, yeah,
But I guess you can't now, being dead and all.
I'm dead?
Nah, I'm just messing with you.